Shotgun is Jones. Kiner left hip. Tight formation left. Wide to the right. Jones throws. Intercepted. It is picked off at the 40, 30, the 20, the 10, and the touchdown from Jacob Robinson. Welcome back to Coordinator's Corner. And on this season debut, we have conversations with all three coordinating coaches ahead of BYU's lid lifter with Southern Illinois this Saturday. In our last segment, we hit the BYU special teams with Coach Kelly Papinga. In this segment, we go to the defensive side of the ball as we welcome in defensive coordinator, safeties coach, and associate head coach, Jay Hill. Coach Hill, good to have you once again. Here we go again.
We are at it. Can't wait.
It's an awesome time of year. Last year at this time, you were coordinating a BYU defense for the first time. What kind of difference has a year made for you and your players with this scheme?
Well, I think that myself, the other coaches, and the players will be much more familiar with the opponents in the Big 12, so that will help a lot. I think the players are way better right now at executing the scheme than we were a year ago. Just cleaner, tighter. And then just expectations, them knowing my expectations, and then also knowing what realistic expectations I can put on each one of those players is a little better. Anyway, we should be much better in year two.
I'm glad you brought the point up you started with there. You knew what kind of challenge BYU would face in 2023 playing a power conference schedule for the first time. How did going through a Big 12 schedule help determine maybe your defensive roadmap for this season and beyond?
Well, it does. Like I say, we're more familiar with some of the offensive coordinators that will be back this year. Travel in the Big 12 changes maybe some of the ways that you approach some of the practices. I think more than anything, just an understanding of the overall talent and what you're up against week in, week out in this conference. Not that we didn't know all that stuff, because you get to watch film, but seeing it up close and in person is such an advantage year two.
Depth and health go hand in hand. And as far as camp goes in 2024, yeah, you had to deal with the tough Ben Bywater news, but you knew it was coming kind of at the start of the month. But I thought you had a pretty clean camp on the defensive side of the ball. Fair to say?
Yeah, you always have your nicks and dings, but I think our strength coaches did a phenomenal job of getting our players ready. We have two really smart sports scientists that I think help control that group and what we're doing, and that entire staff I think did a great job of keeping our guys healthy and just monitoring what we were doing in practice each day. I think that's helped. The nutrition that we can provide here at BYU has been a big deal. So knock on wood, we're very healthy going into a season, and I look forward to seeing these guys compete. Yeah, the vibe to me was kind of like, well, the ones were the ones, and the two, like the group kind of stayed pretty consistent. It felt for you during camp, which was nice. It did. For the most part, we had very few injuries, and these guys got better through fall camp. So I'm excited to see what we have Saturday.
Let's go from front to back on your defense. We start up front. Coach Papinga did a nice job profiling the edge guys. Inside, you bring back veterans in John Nelson and Blake Mangelson. They're really good under the radar guys, I think. Not everyone talks about them a lot, but who will join them in your D-line rotation?
Well, yeah, those two I thought played really good last year and through spring ball in this fall camp. I'm excited to watch those two play because they should be monsters this year. Josh Singh really had a great camp. I thought he played well. JT played really good. David Latu he is one of the defensive injuries that we had, so we need to get him back soon, and he's expected to start practicing here soon. So Luke really has come along well.
So Omalatai.
Yes, and he has really come along well the last couple weeks, and so I think you'll see him on the field and doing good things, and he's one of those guys that's just going to get better and better. So I think the depth is better in that group than it was a year ago, and I really like the way those two stars are playing. And Josh Singh. Josh Singh had a really good camp.
You said JT, that's John Talmapeo, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Linebacker, no Ben Bywater, which means the time is now for Harrison Taggart.
Yeah. So I think Harry's had a really good camp. Jack Kelly's played outstanding. I mean, he's everything that I knew he would be, but it's fun to listen to the other coaches rave about him just because now they finally got to see him through a spring ball and now fall camp, and Jack's played really, really good. Isaiah Glasker has made some of the biggest plays in fall camp. His length and speed, I think, is going to cause some fits. And then that group behind him, I mean, I could list off 6 more guys that have done great things. You just saw Cialia Serra, but Anyway, bottom line, I think Justin Enna's done a great job with that entire crew of bringing them along. Again, that's another group that's much deeper than it was a year ago, and there's probably 6 or 7 guys that could really see time in games this year.
You mentioned familiarity with Jack Kelly because he comes from Weber State. You know him well because you coached him.
Yeah, and I got to see him as a young player. I got to see his personality of just what he was all about. And then, last year made tons of plays up at Weber. He's really good at getting after the passer, but he's really honed in on his skills as an inside linebacker. So I can't wait to watch him play. I know what he's all about, and I think the fans are going to be super excited about what they see.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Isaiah too. Tall. You mentioned how long he is, and I had playmaker as one of the adjectives I have for him. That's what he is. Only a redshirt sophomore. How good could he be for you?
Well, I think he could be phenomenal. In high school, he was more of a wide receiver than anything, and I think everybody kind of thought they could project him at linebacker, moving at the next level, but now watching him do it, I mean, he has tons of length, he's got speed, he's got ball skills, so I'm excited to see him in coverage, and I'm excited to see what he becomes.
Okay, you already hit some of the depth names as well. Sione Moa, Ice Moa, Che Bryant Strother, Ace Kofusi, you said Ciale, so there are some names there.
Well, that's what I mean. I could have named probably 6 or 7. There's others even in that group that have done great things through fall camp. I like the development of the young guys, and this group looks deep for years to come.
To the secondary, let's start with your safeties. How nice to have Micah Harper back.
Yeah, Micah Harper's a playmaker. He's done that throughout camp. He's healthy right now, so I'm excited to see him back on the field. I've not yet coached a game with him in there, so that will be a big deal. He's played a little bit of nickel, and he's played strong safety. And then the rest of the group, I mentioned this before, there's 6 guys in our room that have started games at BYU, and then we add 3 talented freshmen to that group. So it's very deep. I'm still fighting through some depth chart things because this is not an easy decision for me. They're guys I love, I care about, I want to make the right decision, and you're going to see multiple guys playing this first game.
Last year's injuries at safety created this year's veteran experiences, it turns out. Yep. Tanner Wall, Crew Wakely, Ethan Slade, they got really valuable reps last year.
Yeah, Raider DeMooney started games last year. Anyway, the list goes on and on of who could play. I'm excited. And then you add Faletau, Satuala, and
Tommy Prassas.
Yeah. Those 2 are playing really, really good right now. And so it's a fun group to coach, but it's not fun. And I think the fans, it's good for the fans to know this. These aren't always easy decisions that we have to make. And the players know it. Those aren't easy decisions. And we fight and claw and dig to put them in enough positions where we can create some separation amongst them. But those guys,
who's going to make the depth? Who's going to be a travel? Who's going to be a scout? Those tough calls.
And these guys, I get to coach them every day. They've done everything I've asked them to do, and that's why it's hard.
At corner, Jacob Robinson returns with a lot of well-deserved accolades. Maury Bamba's back. Then another guy you coached at Weber State, Mark Collins, joins the defense.
Yeah, Mark, I'm excited about him. He's made a lot of plays in this defense. He's a veteran guy that's been around. He's fought through some adversities with some injuries and stuff like that, but he looks like his old self again. And then Evan Johnson's really played well through fall camp. So that depth is starting to solidify itself, and guys really rising to the top.
Darian Alexander III, and there are other names too that we could mention.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus McKenzie's a guy that I mentioned before. I think Trey Alexander has done a phenomenal job. The fans, I mentioned this last year. You guys, you're going to love seeing this kid because he's long, he's athletic, he loves football. Jonathan Cabella is another name, a young freshman that's come in and played really good. So a lot of these position groups look good for the future. Now, there's a lot of young kids in these groups that haven't played a lot of football for BYU, so we're going to need them to step up and play like veterans early.
And are you feeling like today you've got more of a Big 12 defense than you had last year?
Well, I think the depth is much better, and that's one thing. We're not as veteran maybe at some spots as we were a year ago. You know, like our linebacker group with Ben Bywater, Max Tooley, we're not as veteran as that this year with our group as we were last year, but the depth behind him is better. So if there's an injury that occurs, I feel better about some of the guys that will be going in and the experience those guys have.
Perfect. Break time. Tomorrow night, join us for BYU football with Kalani Sitake as the coach and guest Jacob Robinson. Help us preview the season opener with Southern Illinois. That's Tuesday nights, 8:30 Eastern on the BYU TV app and ESPN+. Plus, you can hear it on BYU Radio. Coming up next, we'll get Coach Hill's training camp MVP as we look ahead to Saturday night as well as the Cougars Coordinator's Corner continues. We're brought to you by JCW's, the Burger Boys.
Coordinator's Corner is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys, Siegfried and Jensen, helping Utah families for over 30 years, and Smith's, low prices, market fresh.
You're in the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's, the Burger Boys, visiting with defensive coordinator Jay Hill, who gave us a great personnel breakdown in our last segment on the BYU defense. Let's open this segment by putting a wrap on training camp. And Coach Hill, if you had to pick an outstanding player or players from camp, who jumped up and made your job easier?
Well, so I did one for each kind of position group. I thought Batty played great on the defensive front. I thought Jack Kelly in the linebacker group, and then I put Jacob Robinson in there. So I think all three of those guys, and then Blake Mangelson, obviously. His position change to defensive tackle has really solidified our defense. I thought he did a great job learning that new spot.
All right, those are the standouts from training camp. Fantastic. It's always going to be about points allowed and wins or losses. Those are the main stats. But are there some things defensively that you think you need to be really good at to get the results you're after, to come down to those bottom line numbers?
Yeah, you got to stop the run. If you don't stop the run, the offenses will bleed you a slow death. You're just going to die by a million cuts. And so you have to stop the run. When you do, then you put them in more passing situations where you can get turnovers and sacks. And that's a number, each one of those numbers we got to get better at. We need more turnovers this year and we need more sacks. It's going to start with stopping the run.
Some people call it havoc rate, disruption, however you want to say it. You want to make sure the negative plays are more frequent than maybe they were last year.
Yeah. So as we evaluated last season, there were times we were really good and then times we were not as stout as we needed to be. We need to be better on third and long situations. The opponent's ability to convert on those situations was way too high last year. And then we need to be just a little bit better in stopping the run. Doing so, I know will lead to more sacks and turnovers.
Okay. It all gets underway Saturday at LaVell Edwards Stadium. BYU home to Southern Illinois. BYU's 18-0 against FCS opponents all time. This is a very good FCS opponent, though. 3-2 in their last 5 against FBS. They make the playoffs. They got to the second round last year. Let's preview BYU and SIU. It's brought to you by Intermountain Health, official medical provider for BYU Athletics. Salukis, new starting quarterback, lost their top 2 running backs from last year, 2 of their top 3 receivers, but most of the O-line is back. I think 120 starts almost on the O-line. Coach Hill, you know what a good FCS program looks like. What does Southern Illinois look like to you?
Well, this will be one of the better FCS teams in the country coming in here. I think they're very disciplined. They're tough. They were good on both sides of the ball last year. They went deep into the playoffs a year ago. They lose players, but everybody loses players every year. I think Nick Hill does a great job, one, with his team culture, but also calling plays. I think he's very creative. This will be a team very similar to Sam Houston a year ago that's going to come in here as one of those top FCS teams that will feel like that they can play great against us.
And that does, it's notable when, they're one of only 2 programs, FCS programs, that have wins over FBS teams in each of the last 2 years.
Yeah, so that doesn't happen very often. So for them to do it each of the last 2 years tells you what kind of program and what kind of team we're facing. I promise you this, we're not going to overlook them. I know what a big game it is for an FCS team to come into a Power 4 stadium, the excitement and energy that comes from that. We're going to get their best shot. We'll be ready. I promise you we're not going to overlook these guys.
Even though they were favored in the game, Montana State, FCS, went to FBS on the weekend, came back, stormed back to beat Bronco in New Mexico in their season opener on the weekend. It happens.
Well, and then you saw Nevada, who was heavy underdogs against SMU, play great. The reality is we're all excited to play a new opponent. We've been fighting and battling against each other for the last 4 weeks in camp. We're excited to play someone else, as will Southern Illinois. They're excited to play someone else. And the atmosphere of LaVell Edwards Stadium is only going to make that more exciting for them. And we're going to have to be ready for them to give us their best shot, which we will be. Like I said, we have a veteran team and a veteran coaching staff that's not going to overlook anybody.
Ask Coach Papinga about it. You got into the stadium with your guys during camp. Mentioned the new playing surface. It's nice to be in the building, even though it's just a few hundred people in the stands for a scrimmage, but you got a taste of what it'll be like here on Saturday
Well,
night.
and it's exciting. We want to do that before because we had freshmen walking in and getting in the locker room and walking out on the stadium, and just that atmosphere being in the stadium made the practice exciting for them. Wait till you put 65,000 fans in there, and I grabbed those guys this morning and said, wait till you guys see this stadium. You're going to love it. And that's the reality of what this game represents to those guys. It's going to be exciting. I know the fans are going to be excited to be back in there. And, you know, Saturday nights when it's warm, there's nothing like it.
One game at home before challenging back-to-back away games. It's going to be great to be back in the building. I remember you sitting here last year and just talking about how, you know, you'd seen it and known it, but when you're actually in it and you're on the sidelines experiencing the effect of it, you thought there was a real palpable advantage to a full building and what it does to that opponent and to the home crowd.
100%. I had never experienced, like the last time I was in LaVell Edwards Stadium, the Rock was good, but it was nothing like it is today. And I had not experienced that and the atmosphere and some of the things that they've done to help the atmosphere. It was so loud in there, I left without my voice. I left like crazy headache. And you have a hard time talking to the people next to you. Sometimes you got to put your hand on your other ear when you got your headset on because it's just so loud in there you can't hear. But that's what makes it great. That's why we love it.
Well, we love having you with us, and I can't wait for Saturday night either. Coach, great to be with you again.
Well, thank you.
All right, good luck this weekend. You can get ready for BYU in Southern Illinois this Saturday with BYU Sports Nation Game Days. Expanded pregame coverage starting 2 hours prior to kickoff, 6 Eastern, 4 Mountain Time on BYUtv. When we come back, offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick joins us. As the Coordinator's Corner continues, we're brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys. Back with more, and Coach A-Rod after this.